Welcome to First Mover, your first global look at today's action in the Bitcoin, blockchain, and digital asset space. I'm your host, Christine Lee, and joining me are my co-hosts, CoinDesk Managing Editor of Global Capital Markets, Lawrence Lewitton, as well as Managing Director of International Content, Emily Parker. Good morning, Emily and Lawrence.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Very well. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. The CoinDesk Bitcoin price XBX index currently trading at $60,242. Bitcoin is slightly down about 0.7% over the past 24 hours. Taking a look at ETH, the CoinDesk ETX index right now at $4,235. ETH is down over 1%. And the DFX CoinDesk DeFi index is at 567 points. DeFi slightly up about 1.5% for the day. The most reliable reference prices for institutions since 2014 are now published under the CoinDesk brand, trusted globally as a leader in crypto news, events, and data. So, Lawrence, what's going on with the markets? Taking a bit of a pause or a breather there.
Yeah, you could say that. There was a slight rally early morning U.S. time, late Asia time. But other than that, it's just been a steady march down. My sister in the family chat said, I was buying the dip and it just keeps dipping. And it's absolutely right. Like anybody who's been like bargain hunting right now is it's as if they're, what's the saying, catching a falling knife. But this is not been a great couple of days for crypto. It's no explanation why, other than, of course, a couple of days ago we had the crackdown in China, or the announced crackdown in China. But other than that, there's been no major catalyst that we know of either way. So it's sort of, I don't want to say a mystery right now, but it reminds us that the markets are not necessarily prone to the sort of macroeconomic catalysts that we would expect. There are things, other things that are very specific to the crypto markets that could be going on that one might not be entirely aware of, but that's happening, let's say,
or
in the
it could just be
markets,
five whales who are selling off, and now everyone else is
That was my roundabout way of
exactly
saying that. I mean, it's like Sam Bankman-Fried is bored.
Yeah. Emily, but there's also reports out of India, potentially some headwinds out of there.
Yeah, so there was a report in India's Economic Times that India is going to ban crypto as a payment, but regulate it as an asset, and also to crack down on the solicitation from crypto firms. So India, I mean, it's a really important crypto market. It's definitely a roller coaster in terms of regulation. Hopefully we'll have someone on the show to break down what that report actually means.
Yeah, let's dive further with our crypto markets guest.
The Crypto Markets Update is presented by Grayscale, the world's largest digital currency asset manager.
All right. So I believe we have joining us to discuss the crypto markets is, okay. Our markets guest will be arriving with us shortly. We're having some technical difficulties, but again, taking a look at the markets, all right. We're going to go to actually one of our guests who is throwing the Women's Entrepreneurship Day organization conference on Friday, and taking a look at let's take a look at our guest, Wendy Diamond, who is an entrepreneur, CEO of the Women's Entrepreneurship Day organization. Look at there, Wendy's smiling, lovely. All right, Wendy, so we've been tracking the events in Afghanistan. Obviously, we've seen as a nation the country succumb to rule of the Taliban again. They're facing nationwide currency shortages. Borders are closed down, inflation is creeping up, and women have seen their rights taken away from them. And at least in the crypto community, Bitcoin is seen as something that can bank the unbanked and help vulnerable people like people in Afghanistan. So from your perspective, I understand that you are in touch with women in Afghanistan and trying to send them Bitcoin. What is the state of women in Afghanistan and your efforts to help them out?
Correct. So our foundation has been in Afghanistan since 2014, right? So we really have an understanding of what's going on. One of our partners there created the Women's Chamber of Commerce, which is based in Kabul. So, when this was all going down and so forth, we were like, wow, how can we help? And so, my background in this space, since as well as in 2014, I got into the crypto space, especially a supporter of Bitcoin. I realized, like, wow, we could really, work with our group there, because not everybody's getting out of, Afghanistan. They still have to live there. And so what we've seen is the women have been, as we know, been hardest hit. So what we did is we created an initiative where we partnered with Open Grants, which is, using blockchain as well as artificial intelligence to disrupt the trillions of dollars of non-diluted funding. And what they've done is they partnered with Stellar Coin. And so what we're doing is we are funding 100,000 women in Afghanistan with crypto to enable them a week's worth of food, to create that ecosystem amongst themselves, so they don't need to rely on the banks that they have to wait for 10 hours in line to get a little bit of money. And, in regards to the government with this transition, I think it's very important that they find other means of being able to transact amongst themselves. So I think this is a perfect place to actually test this out. And so what our goal is we're going to be launching on Women's Entrepreneurship Day on November 19th, which is an official day in the world, recognized in 144 countries and with U.S. Congress. And we will be celebrating with Kathy Wood of ARK Invest. And we partnered with Ninja Hideout, which is an NFT program, where we're going to be launching this program. And we've already raised $100,000 to support this in Afghanistan.
Oh, you're on mute, Emily.
Sorry. It's a very cool project. Just a few questions. So you say it's for 100,000 women, and the idea is that they can pay for groceries with crypto. So is the idea that, like, they just pay directly with crypto, they never have to exchange it into fiat currency?
They might have, it depends, right? But where we're starting off, and with our partnership with the Women's Chamber of Commerce of, Afghanistan, we have outlets for them to be able to transact, right? And what we did is we've done this on a grassroots level, right? Like, so we found these amazing, people that have, these women that have small groups, whether it's like 250 women, the Women Afghan Fighters Group. And that's been our first testing, and they've already signed up over 280 women to start this off this week. So we're testing it right now, and then we'll fully have an understanding by Friday of, how this is working within the community.
Do you think 100,000 women, it will actually be able to reach that number? Like, because it seems like there will be some barriers just in terms of, like, tech literacy, possibly other challenges along the way. I mean, do you think that actually is a realistic number of people who will actually be using this?
100%. I mean, there's 40 million people in Afghanistan, right? 20 million of them have mobile phones. We're guesstimating about 5 million of those have, are women, right? And so, whether it's a flip phone or a mobile phone, they will be able to upload, and download the wallet. And then what they're going to be able to do is be able to, and it's all KYC, et cetera. And Finclusive is our partner with the KYC, be able to then interact amongst the community and be able to transact. And so we see there's just amount of people, because we've literally already partnered with 40 groups in Afghanistan. And that equates to 50,000 people, 50,000 women, sorry.
Okay, so it's not $100,000 worth, but 100,000 people. Are you working with, for instance, the Stellar Foundation?
Of course. Andrea Lowe. You said you're so Andrea Lowe, who oversees the $3 billion that they have to, invest as well in with their community and their protocol. She is one of the advisors on this project as well. And she will be speaking on Friday at Women's Entrepreneurship Day on our virtual summit on Friday.
How sensitive is this situation, Wendy? Because, I mean, we're seeing a lot of women being, under duress, repression in this new regime change. So it must be quite sensitive dealing with these women, and they must be under a lot of pressure to keep it on the down low, to keep things quiet.
To be honest with you, I mean, we work with such incredible people. It's incredible. How it all kind of started was I read this article in the New York Post, and it was about this woman, where she created this march to enable all her friends to go to school, right? It was all these girls. And literally the Taliban were shooting up. And I found this girl on social media, and literally she has been such a bright light. And it's literally yes, we can do it. And she barely speaks English, but her assistant does. And so she has just been, rallying all the people that she can in a lot of the groups. So her alone has brought us 20 groups. So I feel it's what can you do? You can only be positive and proactive and find ways. And it's not that, what we're hoping with this is that this enables them to be able to interact with each other and be able to give, enable them to have food. You know what I mean? Because right now there's a lot of issues with them even having enough money to get food because, they have to wait 10 hours to go to the bank. They can only get a certain amount of money. So by enabling this and then getting them used to using cryptocurrency, that's another thing, right? Because, we've made it really simple and gave them easy instructions on how to download the wallet, how to use everything. So it's very easy for them. And it's all in Farsi as well. So it's in their language.
Awesome. You also have the the Women's Entrepreneurship Day Organization UN Summit going on. Tell us a bit about what's happening.
So we have, every year, November 19th. So if you're a woman, woo, you should celebrate this day. It's to celebrate, support, and empower women in business to alleviate poverty. And it happened because I ended up in Honduras on vacation, not realizing it was the murder capital of the world in 2013. And I just realized the importance of microloans for women, right? And why was Bitcoin, I always, go back to why was Bitcoin created? And I really believe it was created to help the 2.5 billion people unbanked, right, to have financial access. And it's similar to what, our foundation was founded upon is, when we realized when women receive these microloans, 98% of them are paying these microloans back. 90% of it goes to educate their children, provide for their families. When women, are empowered in business, they have self-confidence and dignity. They don't allow human rights violations. So this was what, our foundation was based upon. And so by creating an officially proclaimed day in 2014 by, at the time, Governor Cuomo and Mayor de Blasio in U.S. Congress, we went around the world. And so now we're represented in 144 countries. And the whole goal of this, think TED, like TED Talks, but instead WED, and bringing governments, business leaders, civil society together to collaborate to find solutions to uplift women in business. So we've got an amazing day set up for November 19th. And wherever you are in the world, there's somebody also creating a summit.
Incredible. Very exciting. Wendy, I feel your energy. Lots of positive vibes coming up out of this. So appreciate you having you on. All right. That was Wendy Diamond, CEO and founder of Women's Entrepreneurship Day Organization. Coming up, we'll check in on Asia with our daily forecast.
The Crypto Markets Update is presented by Grayscale, the world's largest digital currency asset manager.
All right, let's have a live look at Bitcoin. The CoinDesk Bitcoin price XPX index currently trading at $60,210. Bitcoin is down about 0.8%. The CoinDesk Ether price ETX index right now at $4,231. ETH is also declining about 1.7%. The new DFX CoinDesk DeFi index trading at 567 points, but DeFi is slightly up about 1.4%. Joining us now to discuss the crypto markets is MyEtherWallet COO Brian Norton. Hello there, Brian. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. So looking at the price of ETH, what drives ETH price in terms of, how the supply works? I see there's 118 million ETH out there. How does that grow, and how does the so-called burning of ETH built into the protocol affect price?
Thank you for having me. Some of these questions are not always necessarily straightforward. I'll start with your first question first. Your second question first. The burning of ETH, the burning of ETH fees post EIP 1559. What it does is it puts some deflationary pressure on the total supply. So since the EIP was released, the more ETH has been burned than has been collected in fees by miners, and so in theory that will over the long term stabilize the price, and perhaps in some cases even drive the price down. Though I should note that that's not necessarily what it was intended to do. It's intended as a sort of gas and Ethereum fee mitigation tool for users. Essentially, that's what that ETH.
So, do you see the price long term staying around this level or going down in time?
I don't like to speculate necessarily on what the price action will be in the short term. I do believe that as the protocol is existing now, there are price stabilization mechanisms in effect that will prevent a long-term or sharp decline.
So, Brian, while you might not want to look forward, why don't we look back a couple of days? And what happened? Why the sell-off? Has there been a change in sentiment? Is it just falling because of its relationship with Bitcoin, for instance, and other crypto, or is there something happening unique to Ethereum that's leading to Ether dropping?
I don't believe, because we saw red across the board over the last day or so. I think that sell-off is probably still fairly correlated to Bitcoin. As much as we in the ETH community have been making strides, like in ways by which we distinguish what's happening on the Ethereum blockchain versus the Bitcoin blockchain. The markets are the market, and there is a correlative effect amongst crypto whales. So when Bitcoin starts selling off, we tend to see these kind of small setups come in batches. The stablecoin prices stay in the green while the rest of the chart goes red, and then we start seeing these little rebounds, kind of what we saw last night. Everything looked a lot better this morning before this interview than they did before I went to bed.
I say that every day.
A little bit about what are the sort of main drivers of ETH's price. So, there are a few things, right? One is just kind of following the larger trends of Bitcoin, people saying okay, now I'm going to go to number 2 market cap. Then there's obviously the NFT craze. That's another factor. Another more recent factor is, some of the meme coins that are kind of, associated with ETH. But what in your view are some of the main factors that are driving price movements?
I think that what drives long-term value on Ethereum versus Bitcoin, what distinguishes it is that it's a that value is built on top of the network. And so over the long term, you see, like with the proliferation of DeFi projects, the NFT craze, obviously, but these different use cases driving demand for the underlying native asset, so that they can use these other protocols. That is what Ethereum is designed to do. And then, so over the long term, with the kind of price stabilization mechanisms that I mentioned earlier, in conjunction with like growth and expansion of these use cases on the network, over time it pushes that price slightly upward, because more people are looking to get in on these DeFi protocols, buy that CryptoPunk, mint an ETH block on myetherwallet.com, whatever the case may be, and over time the value for the network expands.
You talk about the NFT craze, and to me, it almost feels very similar to the ICO boom in 2016, 2017. We'll get into, so I'm wondering, there were problems with MyEtherWallet back then during the ICO boom, people trying to get into those ICOs, being unable to get through the network. And I'm wondering if you've solved those problems now that we're in this NFT boom, or it still exists with considering the transaction costs, the lag on the network, et cetera.
So yes. So back in, for context for your viewers, MyEtherWallet began in 2015, about a month after the Ethereum mainnet launch. It started as a hobby project for the founders and remained a hobby project up until probably 2017, when around the time of the ICO boom. And at the time, it was really the only game in town. It was really the most used wallet during the ICO boom, and that's when MyEtherWallet's sort of growth spurt was forced to occur. From everything from throughput to key generation to just providing support. All of these things have had to have been scaled up. And so since that time, we've learned quite a bit, and we have broader functionality so that users can control their own keys with a far more seamless user experience. And we've done a lot to educate our users on exactly what are the best practices, how to understand gas, and so we're now in a position where we can cater to and cultivate a more sophisticated user as we onboard new people to the network.
So Brian, speaking of the old days, you guys are doing an NFT now of some ancient Ethereum blocks. So can you explain what that's about?
Sure. It's well, they're not all ancient. You can mint the most recent one if you'd like. So it's we were interested in NFTs. We've done some user polling, and our users are very, very interested in NFTs of all sorts. They wanted us to expand support for them, and we thought, well, if we're going to do that, like maybe we do something. Maybe we dip our toes into the space, and what better way than like sort of this love letter to the history of Ethereum, the thing that has changed my life and everybody on our team's lives. And so many people in the space. And so this was simply a way for us to allow our users to commemorate a time where Ethereum meant a lot to them, or that or a seismic event in either their lives or the life of the network. or with some transaction history that they find interesting.
Right.
We're finding all sorts of different testimonials of people gifting them to their blockchain engineer sons, to commemorating their very first transaction on Ethereum. So yeah, it's been a really interesting and a positive experience.
Excellent. Well, Brian, thanks for joining us, and congratulations on this new project. Good luck. That was MyEtherWallet COO Brian Norton. Time now for the daily forecast, an update on what's happening in the Asia crypto markets. Here's Angie Lau of Forecast News.
Emerging as a metaverse hub with TV home shopping companies GS Shop and Lotte Home Shopping among the latest to take the plunge into hawking digital wares. We're going to take a look at what shopping in the metaverse involves and a whole lot more coming up. Let's get you up to speed from Asia to the world. Well, let's kick off with some of the top stories coming out of Asia today. China's ban on crypto mining, not bad for business at all. Chinese Bitcoin mining hardware manufacturer Canaan's Q3 earnings show no sign of any setback from China's clampdown on the mining sector. The company reported a net income of just over 467 million renminbi, or $72.5 million US dollars, compared to a net loss of $13.5 million in the same quarter last year. Meanwhile, Chinese interest in the metaverse continues, with gaming giant NetEase the latest to get in on the act. In its Q3 earnings call, the company said it is technologically ready and claimed it will be one of the fastest runners in the metaverse space. You can read more on those stories and a whole lot more at forecast.news. And not to be left out, South Korea's TV home shopping businesses are going all in on the metaverse as well. GS Shop has broadcast Korea's first ever metaverse home shopping experience. Meanwhile, several other networks are training meta human beings for the next level of TV home shopping. Forecast News' Danny Park has more.
Televised home shopping once dominated South Korea. However, it has faced strong competition more recently. So could entering the metaverse be the answer? Some retailers certainly hope so. GS Shop's home shopping segment for a selection of gourmet nuts gave viewers a grand tour of Oatree's factory via the metaverse, saying customers could then make purchases knowing that the products are made in the right environment. Meanwhile, Lotte Home Shopping is preparing to debut a virtual show hosted by Lucy, a 29-year-old model/design researcher metahuman. Lotte says that with Lucy, they are speeding up their metaverse business. And CJ OnStyle has collaborated with a virtual influencer named Roy to introduce a new line of fashion. For Forecast News, I'm Danny Park.
And now let's get you the latest on NFTs and how it's defining decentralized pop culture. It's what Duke Liu, executive chairman of Spores Network, a cross-chain DeFi-powered NFT marketplace, knows all about. Good to have you on the hot seat with us, Duke.
Thanks for having me, Angie.
Okay, first question. One of the hottest artists in the NFT universe, Beeple, sold his most recent project, Human One, for nearly $29 million. The sale included both an NFT and a sculpture. And so we're asking, is this going to be what people expect from NFTs from now on? What's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you think about NFTs, a year and a half ago, you were thinking about memes and GIFs, and you're saying, what's so special about it? Is it a collectible? Is it completely fungible versus a non-fungible token? And so where you have Beeple, one of the stars of the scene, he's really thinking about bridging the physical and the digital more and more. So we already have instances where you can take your NFT and then bring it to a smart screen.
And that brings me to this question. Is this what we are going to see at one of the biggest international art fairs, Art Basel Miami? It's just around the corner. What's on your radar? Do you think NFTs are going to take over there?
Yeah, so the art market obviously is incredibly huge and integral to NFTs. We saw Art Basel, one of the bigger shows in the world. Art Basel Hong Kong drives the most revenue, but really Art Basel Miami is where the cool stands. So we're going to see a lot of activity by NFT groups and NFT artists during that weekend, and I'm looking at NFT Basel, BZL, as an event to watch during that week.
All right, no doubt you are going to be there. Always the inside look from you on NFT Insider, Duke Liu, Executive Chairman, Sports Network. Really appreciate that. Thanks. And that's the daily forecast from our vantage point right here in Asia. For more, visit forecast.news. I'm Editor-in-Chief Angie Lau. Until the next time.
Thanks, Angie, for that update. CoinDesk will also be at NFT Basel, so if you're in town, hit us up. Tweet me at Christine News. Coming up, a decentralized mortgage platform that provides a solution for lending, and our daily global policy and regulation update with CoinDesk's Nick Day.
When we say we want to reimagine money, it turns out we're going to the heart of the matter. Imagination has always been a key part of what money is. Imagination in the form of cultural creativity is also something that the cryptocurrency community has in spades. And to the outsider, that can be a reason to dismiss it as frivolous, as something built on nothing. To dismiss it for these reasons, though, is to ignore that all money is imagined.
Welcome back. Time to check in with Global Policy and Regulation Managing Editor Nick Day, who's also the editor of CoinDesk, the State of Crypto newsletter. Hello there, Nick. So what are you watching? What is Congress up to in terms of weighing crypto regulations?
Good morning. Yesterday, Republicans on the House Agriculture Committee introduced a draft discussion version of the Digital Commodity Exchange Act, which, for those not familiar, it's a bill introduced last year basically seeking to more clearly define what a federal regulator for crypto might look like, and giving some powers to the CFTC, but with provisions for the SEC as well. It's an interesting bill because it answers the question of whether or not there should be a federal regulator and who exactly would that federal regulator be, but doing so in a way that gives companies options of which regulator they would rather work with, and allowing them to basically figure out, talk to their lawyers and say, all right, well, what we're doing looks kind of like a securities transaction, so we have to go to the SEC, or, what we're doing does not look like a securities transaction. Maybe the CFTC is a better fit. Again, this is kind of a discussion version. It doesn't look like, the committee is actually introducing this into the legislative agenda yet. Hopefully, we'll hear more about what their intentions are and, figure out whether or not there's going to be something that will be discussed as an actual potential, bill or law.
So, Nick, any mention at all of stablecoins? We just had the stablecoin report, which said that, hey, Congress needs to do something here. Does this actually do that, or is this sort of just kind of like a different part of the sector entirely?
So, stablecoins would kind of be captured under the broader, crypto umbrella, right? So, if we're talking about stablecoins as viewed by, for example, SEC Chairman Gary Gensler, then he's already made it clear that he thinks stablecoins that are backed by baskets of things, including securities, might themselves be securities. So just through that definition alone, stablecoins that have that kind of backing might be, a security that the SEC would want to regulate. But it's, if we're talking in terms of, definitions of stablecoins or any other type of crypto asset, it's really going to come down to what it looks like and what it does and how exactly those are defined under the bill.
All right, Nick, thanks for the update. That was CoinDesk Managing Editor of Global Policy and Regulation, Nick Day. Don't forget to sign up for the State of Crypto newsletter on CoinDesk.com. All right, Blockchain technology makes it possible to tokenize assets and raise money around the world at incredible scale, a perfect opportunity for the housing market, and many folks have tried, but it's tricky to nail down. Nevertheless, our next guest is launching a decentralized mortgage platform that provides a solution for lending. Please welcome Karl Jacobs, CEO and co-founder of Bacon Protocol and LoanSwap. So welcome, Karl. Bacon Protocol is minting 7 home mortgages as NFTs. Tell us how that works.
Yeah, we're actually up to 8 now. So basically the way it works is someone comes to us with the desire to get a loan, and we take out a lien on their property, just like we do normally, except this time we wrap an NFT around that lien and then loan against that lien, which is published on the blockchain.
So I guess the big picture question here is, why do we need home mortgages as NFTs? What is there? Is this addressing a specific challenge in the mortgage market? What exactly is the purpose?
Yeah, so basically the issue that we have is that mortgages are opaque to the blockchain today. And so what we chose was, let's figure out what the smallest piece of the real world asset, which is the lien on the home and is recorded at the county, is that we can bring into the blockchain, and then we can leverage all the power of the DeFi protocols in the blockchain in order to lend against that lien, which is very powerful and allows people around the world to lend money to people who want to have a house.
So, Karl, is this an actual first mortgage, or is it a second mortgage, a mechanics lien? Where are you in that whole structure? Are you the first mortgage there? And if so, do you have the right to foreclose? Does the owner of the NFT have the right to foreclose on the property should things go south?
Yeah, so the answer to your first question is all of the above. We can have first liens, second liens, and all that. This existing pool, this first pool, is called B Home, and B Home is originated to Fannie Mae standards, which would be the first lien on the home. The NFT holder, and there's a lot of laws around this, it does not have the right to foreclose on the loan. It's actually the group that's servicing the loan. And so they're highly regulated around the way and the process that they can actually do that. And it requires non-payment for a relatively long period of time and a whole bunch of legal and structural things that need to happen before that can occur.
So Bacon Protocol has launched B Home token, which you just mentioned, and you're planning to raise over $100 million worth of B Home token. So how does that work? And is there any concern that it's a security?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's something that we think about a lot. So the interesting thing here is the guest previously was talking about how people are thinking about this as a security. So mortgages are not securities. They're regulated by the state on several levels. And each state has their different regulations for how mortgages are run. We're audited around a lot of the different rules and specifications that they have. And so a pool of them on the blockchain that is specified by the DAO, and then actually the Oracle is the one that figures out whether or not a loan is allowed into the protocol, and then it's voted on by the DAO, is the approach that we've taken around the security issue.
So yeah, more to that point. I mean, you're buying the entire mortgage with this NFT, or are you buying tranches of it? Are you buying certain cash flows of it, or like exactly?
No, it's not that complex.
Purchasing?
It's yeah. So you're purchasing a coin. The coin is backed by a pool of mortgages.
Right. So the coin itself, it backs but you're expecting cash flow from that coin, correct?
Well, I mean, the way the coin works is basically it's a stable plus coin. So the coin is stable against the liens on the homes. So let's walk through it. So say you have a $50,000 lien on a home, and then the coin is backed by a group of those liens. That's the stable part. The plus part is cash flow back from the borrowers into the protocol or the coin itself, and the coin price goes up.
So essentially you're expecting an appreciation in the value of the coin if let's say if it's a floating rate mortgage that you have here, you're expecting values.
Well, Fannie Mae's aren't floating; they're fixed.
Okay, and then you're basically you're assigning the cash flow based on the token, correct? And if there's a change in interest rate, the value of that changes. Ultimately, if there's a change in market rates, the value of the token itself changes alongside with it. I mean, how is it not a security?
Well, first of all, the market rates are determined by the people investing into the
Correct.
pool. And then as far as like kind of what you're headed toward is a bunch of the tests that they use for securities. So let's think about the kind of two ways you unwind this, right? It's basically the first is it regulated by another group? This group of securities, that people talk about. Generally, they're regulated by the federal government, or they're not regulated by anybody. Mortgages are regulated by another entity. They're regulated by the states and very actively. And so there's that piece. And then the other piece is, how is the money generated? Well, is the money generated by us doing something, or by the people who've actually invested into the asset class? And in this case, it's the people who've invested in the asset class. We're not really doing anything. And mortgage is a marketplace by itself. And so even today, we don't specify what mortgages get done. We take what our investors are interested in purchasing, and we take those specifications and we present those to customers, and customers can choose those mortgages.
All right. Well, Karl, it's a fascinating project. Real estate is certainly the new frontier for NFTs. So thank you for joining us and talking about your project. That was Bacon Protocol CEO Karl Jacobs. That's it for First Mover. Thank you, Emily Parker and Lawrence Lewitton. I'm your host, Christine Lee. I'll be back live at 3 p.m. with All About Bitcoin, coming up at noon with the folks from The Hash. You're watching CoinDesk TV.